And then one Friday, I was like, oh, screw it. I kind of mapped it out. I used this like wireframing tool online, whimsical, that I found, and just lets you kind of it's an infinite whiteboard, basically.
Mm.
And so I just started to put the idea up there, and then I was like, oh, screw it. Let me just start chipping away at this. And what happened was of course, I made a GPT to make the GPTs. And the faster
You made a GPT to make the GPTs.
Yeah, why not?
That's cool.
Yeah. This is how I like to play them,
Yeah.
And then once that started to cook, I made like 109 of them in an afternoon.
But here you just query it.
Yeah. And so you have a link now to your GPT that you can save, bookmark, and anytime you want to do that, you just go right to it and bang. And so, okay, well, that's cool. What if I added 2 documents? Now it's the value changed, right? Well, what if I change the instructions a little bit and say, okay, answer from these 2 documents, but respond in the tone of a leprechaun or whatever. Like, that's the kind of level that we're talking about. So that
of scraping they did.
Yeah. So that's basically what I did was I just built what are now probably a couple hundred tools that sort of leverage existing frameworks and information and stuff. Most of it's not anything I invented. I just figured out how to make these wrappers for information that exists leveraging ChatGPT. And then I started to kind of like add in my own sauce too,
Hi, I'm Matt Levenhagen, founder of Unified Web Design, Unified Plugins, and your host of the Builders Podcast. Here on the Builders, our goal is to uncover the first principles behind building businesses, products, and services. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. And if you find value in our content, a like, share, or review is always appreciated. Let's dive in and explore the roots of innovation and progress together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, we are joined by Erich Archer. Welcome to the show, Erich.
Thanks very much. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you. So, Erich is an Emmy-winning TV producer and AI video expert. You have done a lot in your life, I believe, looking at your profile. You even have been on some shows or been a producer on some shows we might be familiar with.
Yeah, it's been a while since I worked on anything the general public was familiar with, but back in my LA days, I worked on things like MasterChef and The Biggest Loser and some of the bigger productions, reality productions going on out there. And cool. Spent a lot of time doing MTV and ESPN type of stuff back in my New York days. But these days, what I'm doing, you have not heard of. It's hyper-local to a small community that I serve as a executive director of a community media television station. So we are the smallest type of production company you can find. We just serve these 4 communities in the Gloucester, Massachusetts area, doing all kinds of hyper-local stuff, which I love that too. So I've been in New York and LA and teeny little markets too, and so everything in between, kind of.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to be talking a lot about AI today because you've got your fingers in that as well.
Yeah, I've been kind of obsessed the last couple of years. It just came on the scene as new technology, like technology's been doing in my industry for the entire time I've been in it. It's new cameras. It's okay. Now it's screen. Now it's cell phones. Now it's this and that. It's always something. Yeah. And these were just the newest tools. But then it became pretty clear how profoundly powerful they are and how disruptive they are. And that really, that's where my real focus came from was, okay, wow, this is not just the next generation camera. This is a whole different paradigm and I need to understand it.
Interesting. So where were you? Do you remember where you were when you first, when you first saw AI doing its thing and you're like,
Well, I remember, it was ChatGPT and Midjourney coming out. I got exposed to them right around the same time. And they were sort of equally profound. ChatGPT, most everyone's familiar with now and what that can do in terms of, for me, just aiming ChatGPT at the work that I do was helpful. Processing creative work, ideas, adding rigor to pre-production research, just stuff that I was doing anyway, but now I could do faster, better.
Right.
And then I started to figure out a couple tricks, like, if I put an interview transcription with time code through ChatGPT or maybe Claude, then it can actually do like a paper edit with time code and be like, hey, I'm producing a 1-minute promo video. Can you find me a soundbite that's a good opener? And then how about like a who, what, when, where, why soundbite, and then a good emotional closer, and give me all the time code. I was like, oh, damn, that worked. It was 80% good, but that just saved me 10 hours.
Where was it going? It was going out to find these things? Really?
So this was just, after, playing around with ChatGPT a little while. And then, the work that I do, I work with interview transcriptions, among other things, but there's big, long documents. If I go interview somebody for a video,
right,
I come back with a transcription,
right,
all the language. And it's like, then I got to go through all that and figure out the sound bites I want to extract to make the smaller piece. And ChatGPT was able to do that faster than I was.
Oh, so you had the full transcript, and then you said, "This is what I want you to pull out of it," and just instead of you having to spend an afternoon going through it.
Yeah, it could be like at 18 minutes and 24 seconds. She said this, and that's what you're looking for. Instead of having to literally listen to all that, which is where we were coming from. So it was little things like that, little efficiencies here and there. And then Midjourney changed everything with, now I can generate an image. And I'm very familiar with what I can do with an image,
Mm-hmm.
If you just leave it an image, I can make a Ken Burns style documentary. But if you can let me turn it into video, then I can make damn near anything. And so it's just really trying to figure out, all my projects have been sort of proof of concepts where I'm just sort of trying to test where I think the state of the art is.
Yeah.
So, okay, beginning of 2024, beginning of Midjourney, okay, I'm going to make something in black and white, Ken Burns style, because that's the state of the art. Like, we can make pictures and that's awesome, but it's simple.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the year, I was making something that was slightly more sophisticated, in color, better sound design from 11 Labs, just some of the new bells and whistles and stuff. And that's, just kind of how it's been going.
So you're just kind of progressing with the technology as it progresses. You keep testing, you're trying things. So it's obvious. So you're applying this to what you do. I mean, your work, you're in production or whatever, you're working in video and, So I don't have to ask you the question how you ended up. I mean, you obviously always liked tech. I mean, you were attracted to this and looking for ideas and playing around with things. It must be a thing.
Yeah, I've always been I always thought hackers were cool. And I always enjoyed computers, but I also, I grew up raised by an artist and a businessman. So I've always been sort of left brain, right brain.
Right.
And I think that kind of applies. And also being in the nonprofit space the last 15 years, it's just so DIY. You can wear every hat, do it all yourself. So it's just, I'm just used to that.
Right.
That style of production where you do your own voiceover and your own writing and all that stuff. And that's been helpful, because it's just now it just doesn't really feel all that unfamiliar, this new territory that I think if your ground hasn't always been shifting in the same way, maybe it's more comfortable for you, but I'm used to it.
Right. And so you're applying it to the work you're just doing. I mean, what kind of work you're doing, right? What are you applying it to now? Is it actually finished stuff you're doing, or are you still playing around at this stage?
I love it at all of the early ideation stage and creative development stage. What's so nice is, at that stage, you don't need things to be correct. You don't need accuracy, right? It's all just ideas, and maybe you pursue them, maybe not. And so, you're not really running into any of the limitations of the tools at that point. They're just helping you. They're just helping.
That's interesting to say that, because I think about it in how I use it in my running an agency, web design, development, from coding to creating content. There's a stage where it doesn't have to be perfect, where you just need, like right now I'm working on a project myself, a coding project, and I'm using Claude in my editor, and it can code pretty well, but it gets it close. And that's all I want, is I want it to get it close enough, or to solve this specific problem, and I'll dial it in.
Yeah.
But it's going to be sloppy, and it doesn't matter, because I'll backfill that with hopefully some skills to make it look good. But that sounds like similar to what you're doing. Yeah,
100%. And I think that's where people can really find wins, is when they kind of partner with it in that low risk way, and and you bring your expertise to the table too, and let it do what it's good at, and together you'll come out net positive. Your idea will be further along than it would have been, and you won't really have jeopardized yourself in any way by like having it do math for you, or anything like that. Where
it still worries me. This morning I was using it to add up some numbers for to add up some hours, and I still like, maybe I should at least check if it's in the neighborhood. Make sure.
The more accuracy you need, the more careful you need to be.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I enjoy the luxury of being in a very accuracy-free space.
Right. You can get in the ballpark. It's fine. No one's going to judge you.
Right. I just need pretty pictures and good stories, and but that's certainly true. Like with people's, they're general purpose tools, and everyone's got general problems and challenges and things they're thinking about, and that's all fertile ground for AI support. Whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're challenged by, see if it can't just help you level up your game there. Or in my case, like I might be a decent writer, but not great. And if it brings me up 10, 15%, then maybe I'm in the running,
Sure.
So it's like a lot of gap filling. Maybe you have a business idea, but you haven't run a business before. And so you don't know what you don't know. But ChatGPT could help you figure that out.
Gap filling, I like that.
Been in management for the first time a couple times now. Like once I had my own little startup, once I was hired as an executive director, having never been one. And like, you don't know a lot of stuff. You just don't know what to do. And you could put in all the good faith effort you want, but if you're weak in one important area, that could be your death.
Yes.
Death of your business, death of your idea, whatever. So now, instead of having to find a partner to fill that knowledge gap, you can maybe do it with ChatGPT and give yourself a better shot at whatever you're working on. Yeah,
it's pretty nice. For strategy and just kind of, having something to talk to that has knowledge from somewhere in the universe and is pretty darn smart, to even just brainstorm and come up with ideas. Like this last year, there was a financial thing I was dealing with, and I don't have my own financial person to talk to, or a partner that has that. So I set up actually in ChatGPT, they have projects now, and I set up a project and just to talk about the strategy for 2025. And one of those things is the financial side. How can we improve in these areas? And it gave me a pretty good roadmap. Cause I'm like, I need to, pay more attention to this, and it helped me kind of, figure that out. But yeah, it's cool. So you're applying it to your own stuff. You're applying it to your work and having fun with it and learning and it's progressing. And like, as we talk, it's just going to get better. I mean, in our space anyway, we're talking, a year, 2 years from now, it might be doing a lot more stuff, more accurate and better output. But you're also, there was some spark, something's happened that you are creating tools with it and business tools, and you're doing something for others in some way, right? There's something going on there. Like you're not just using it for yourself. You're like, well, maybe I can build these for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, custom GPTs are what I've been diving into. And, those are just available to anyone who's on the $20 a month ChatGPT plan to make those. And if you're not familiar, you can go in and they have a bunch of third-party ones that you can check out in all kinds of categories. People are trying to make these useful little tools that basically just use ChatGPT's large language model, but they put their own little parameters on it. So like, right. Harness ChatGPT to just do this specific.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. I actually saw a post on Facebook. So it was like, you're really missing out on the power of ChatGPT if you're not using custom GPTs.
Yeah.
Because they're much more customizable,
mm-hmm.
and you can make them more narrow in certain functions, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it works.
And you can keep them and use them repeatedly, which is powerful.
Right.
So like if you figure out a way you like doing something, you can bottle up that process into a custom GPT now. And now you don't have to explain the situation anymore.
Exactly. Right. It's that, because I use them too. Full transparency. But once you have it set up, it's because if you go to a general chat, you have to explain every time with a prompt or whatever, or
mm-hmm.
What you want it to do. But here you can give it a knowledge. You can give it docs or instructions, right? And so there's chat or GPTs that I have that I just have to drop something in it, and it just knows what to do with it.
Yeah, that's not even hard to set up. Like one of the first GPTs I made was just stuffing all of our nonprofit documents into one and saying, just answer questions from these documents. That was it. And it works.
Yeah.
And so now the staff can go to it and be like, what's our dress code? What's our strategic plan? Whatever. And it's all there. And that's crazy powerful. Like that's a lot of time over the next however many years of questions I don't have to answer.
Sure.
And that's just one quick tool.
It's crazy. And they all add up, right? Like you save time on this one. You save time.
I save a penny, a nickel, a dime, but
100%. Yeah.
And, so for me, I started to get really into those for those reasons. Just like, wow, I can bottle up every little thing I can here. And then I started to figure out reliable ways of making GPTs in general. And then it was like, oh, well, everything is pretty much known by ChatGPT. So I could just tell it to do certain business frameworks and analyses and mental models and things, and it would know what those are already. So I could just make little tools by telling it to do these things. And so I had this idea. And then one Friday I was like, screw it. I kind of mapped it out. I used this wireframing tool online, whimsical, that I found, and just lets you it's an infinite whiteboard basically. Mm. And so I just started to put the idea up there, and then I was like, screw it. Let me just start chipping away at this. And what happened was of course I made a GPT to make the GPTs. And the faster
you made a GPT to make the GPTs.
Yeah, why not?
That's cool.
This is how I like to write them.
Yeah.
And then once that started to cook, I made like 109 of them in an afternoon.
Holy smokes!
And they all work the same way. They're Q&A, so you just go to them, and they do one analysis or apply one framework or something. And these are general business frameworks like a SWOT analysis, and you can go to it and click the start here button, and it will say, hey, tell me about your company or whatever. And you start to fill in through Q&A the information that it needs to conduct the analysis. And then it does it for you.
Oh, nice. So you have it asking questions, and it kind of guides you through it.
Right. Because it knows how to do the SWOT analysis already. ChatGPT is very familiar with those.
Sure.
And then
it's crazy what it knows, because it's like, you can talk to it about books. I'm reading a book right now, a novel. I took a screenshot of it. I took a screenshot of this. I don't understand this section. It explained it to me. Like, how do you know the middle of this book?
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of level that we're talking about. So that
of scraping they did.
Yeah. But so that's basically what I did. Was I just built what are now probably a couple hundred tools that sort of leverage existing frameworks and information and stuff. It's not, most of it's not anything I invented. I just figured out how to make these wrappers for information that exists leveraging ChatGPT. And then I started to kind of like add in my own sauce too, you know.
Your own sauce.
Yeah, like a lot of the GPTs that I make for myself, I've now kind of catered toward the public. Like, for example, I have a way I like to write my prompts for Midjourney. You know, I might make that available to people, or I might make a GPT that just is great at taking in a raw brain dump and turning around a well-formatted version of it, or like simple things, or complex things, or maybe, you know, now I'm doing collaborations with people who have very individualized frameworks on top of those frameworks. So like, for example, one guy has his own 11-step product market fit framework. So there's product market fit frameworks, and then there's his. And so we paired his way with my way of making GPTs, and now we have a collaborative GPT that's his product market fit GPT.
Oh, nice.
And so those are starting to be available too. And I'm making like a whole real estate one with another friend. So there's like branches now and stuff, depending on
cool
expertise. So it's just been a fun kind of byproduct of all the learning I've done. That's just been kind of a fun thing to do simultaneously. But people are using it now and paying for it and everything. It's wild.
That's nice. Yeah, no, because that's the thing. That's what people need. They're not going to sit there and figure. You've put many, who knows how many hours into creating them at this point, and so you've looked, and it is an art form. It's, people call it engineering, but it's really an art form to get those prompts to come out right, or to train. I've trained GPTs, and sometimes there's a lot of iterations on that to get it to do, or it does something weird. It's like, why are you doing that? And you got to go back and try to peel it apart and try to get the output you need. But that's the value you bring, though, is that experience and being able to then apply it to. So you're doing this all in one account. Are you doing this like you got your pro account? You got like hundreds of GPTs in there?
No, there's a couple hundred GPTs in there. This is all with the $20 a month subscription.
Like, I'm surprised they don't have a limit. Like, there's always limits to everything.
Right. And so the crazy thing is, these are all on Whimsical still, where I started, and I can share a read-only link to Whimsical for free. Whimsical's free, and so there's literally $20 a month of overhead, and I can make these in you know, I have thousands more mapped out. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It's crazy. It sounds fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It's for free on Gumroad, but so, you know, you can also, people can pay if they want to. And every once in a while, someone will throw me $25 or something. And it's always like the best part of my day. You know, it's like, you got money.
Yeah. When people start throwing you money to do stuff, I mean, you're onto something.
I know.
Right?
Just they didn't have to. They just saw the value.
Yeah.
And did it. And so that's exciting. And I couldn't make a single tool 2 years ago. So it's just an incredible new day.
You feel like, is this kind of changing the trajectory of your career, or your like, is this something net new? Like, what's your plan? I mean, are you planning to, do you have a website? Do you have, like, how are you going to market these? Or are you just going to, I have a Mac. Sometimes it likes to put thumbs ups for those that are just on audio. It throws me every time. Excuse the interruption, but I'd like to take a quick moment to thank the sponsors of the Builders Podcast, Unified Web Design and Unified Plugins. At Unified Web Design, we specialize in crafting custom websites and providing comprehensive design and development solutions to help businesses build a strong online presence. Unified Plugins offers a suite of WordPress tools designed to help you create beautiful websites, enhance functionality, and drive conversions. Explore how these services can elevate your digital projects by visiting unifiedwebdesign.com and unifiedplugins.com. Now back to our program. What's the plan? Have you architected the next steps and what you do here?
So there's a few things in the works, but they're on my on my personal portfolio site, which is cgacreative.com. So if you're looking for a link to Smarty Pants, you can find it there. It'll send you to Gumroad where you can get the link for free. And so I'm very interested in more collaborations because I think I've put a proof of concept out there, and I'm not necessarily interested in building out more of that. I'm interested in adding more proprietary value through partnerships. So like my real estate friend, for example, there's a whole branch of GPTs just for real estate with his expertise or marketing or whatever. And so I think that's exciting that there's this collaborative potential. And it's just also easy to build that I'm just going to keep doing that. But there's been some people kind of poking around at like, you know, partnerships in a bigger way. So we'll see.
Okay. That's really about connecting with others and creating some kind of, do you feel like you're almost like an agency kind of providing this service and partnering with others to help them facilitate their, apply GPTs and all that to their business to do more and do better? And
yeah, I mean, I don't have it all mapped out yet, but I think the intent comes from, I really feel compelled to help people onboard AI into their lives. I think it matters a lot. And I worry about the divide of people that don't learn this stuff. And if I can make some tools that help people out, and it's easy and fun for me, and people will become aware of my work through that, and I benefit in secondary ways, then I think that's great. But there was so much I didn't know when I got my current job that these tools would have been helpful for, like different things I paid consultants for, analysis I didn't even know existed. So I just hope it can help people that are trying to do things. And if there's a win-win financially, that's great. But my primary focus is still what I've always been doing, which is the video production side.
Yeah. So you still got that to fall back on. No, I think it's, yeah. But I think it's cool that, this is kind of, I wouldn't call this a hobby because you're already kind of doing stuff. You're actually taking action, and people are, you're doing stuff for other people, and they're even giving you some money. But it's interesting to approach something like that. You kind of figure something out, you figure out the craft of whatever you're doing, and you just put it out there in the world. You have no stress because you already, are doing well in life or whatever. You got your main gig, but you're kind of feel like you're doing this kind of on the side, and it's something that you are excited about, but you're looking for those opportunities. It's just keeping your eyes open and talking to people and putting it out there and being on podcasts. And
I mean, this is a big wave, obviously. I can feel it picking me up after a year of being in it. And, it's going to roll through all of our lives, I think.
100%. Yeah. It's funny. I look back. I remember early on when AI, if you're in tech and stuff, you'll tend to see trends like that happen sooner than others. And even on Facebook or LinkedIn even. And I just remember there's specific people, I won't call them out, but how they're like, this is not, just ignore this. It's not going to be a thing. It's not going to replace it. It's not going to do anything. And then 2 years later, they're touting it now. And they're like, you have to do this. But it's true, though, because, depending on it's going to be different depending on the business, the industry, and everything else. But and how fast it happens. But it's going to impact everybody. And there's in some way. And if you're not using it, your competitor's using it.
Yeah.
And I think, at some point, if you have clients, you have customers, they're going to expect that you're going to have some kind of AI baked into what you're doing. So it's a good thing. And I think there's a lot of people out there as well. It seems like just like anything, there's just like marketing. People go out, they hire an agency to help them with marketing, or they go out and hire an agency to help them with content or some piece of the pie. And they're focused on their craft and doing their thing or what their wheelhouse is. You're going to do the same thing. You're filling that void, that gap that people have that maybe they don't have the time to go out and spend hours or tens of hours or hundreds of thousands of hours building GPTs, but here you are.
Yeah.
You can create some kind of service around it. You haven't figured it out yet, but you will.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is it's the easiest technology you'll ever learn. It's, the conversational nature of it makes it very accessible. I think people might have misconceptions about that, it's a very low barrier to entry to learn this stuff. And, if you want to be someone who can claim you're AI powered going forward, you can just use Smarty Pants tools and say, I've got all this AI behind me now.
Yeah.
That's what I call it.
So, Smarty Pants. Yeah, I like that. It rings. Yeah, that's memorable. So let's break. So we got some time yet here. Let's break down. Can you identify one or a couple GPTs you built, and kind of tell the story how you built it, what you learned from that process, and because I in the context of somebody that's listening to this, maybe they haven't played around with GPTs yet, and they want to get their feet wet, and maybe maybe you can tell us a story about something that really really impacted some work or what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about the kind of categories of GPTs now. What are the categories? And there's a couple that I've kind of introduced to people early on. One is just using a document as a training for a GPT that you can ask questions of. It's a very easy thing to set up. Like I mentioned earlier, you just go into the build your own GPT interface, there's only a few things you have to do.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You just literally create, you go, it's right in the interface, go to my GPTs and you click a button and it creates one. And then you have a chat interface in the config, right? Mm-hmm.
So all you're doing is you give it a picture that Dolly can make, a name, and then you give it instructions that's like a prompt. And you can say, you are my answer guide for this one document, and turn off the internet, turn off Dolly, and then that's all it will be able to do. But if that document matters to your work and that's helpful to you, let's say you're a camera operator and it's a camera manual, or I don't know, think of your own example. What one document would be useful to query quickly?
Right. So you got a document that's 100 pages long. Yeah. And every time you need to know something, you'd have to open that document, leaf through it, or go to the table of contents and try to find it. Yeah. Where you have some bookmarks or something. But here you just query it.
Yeah. And so you have a link now to your GPT that you can save, bookmark, and anytime you want to do that, you just go right to it and bang. And so, okay, well, that's cool. What if I added 2 documents? Now it's the value changed, right? Well, what if I change the instructions a little bit and say, okay, answer from these 2 documents, but respond in the tone of a leprechaun or whatever. You can,
so that's a beautiful, I was going to ask you that. How about personality? I'd love to add a little bit of personality on my GPTs.
Have to do it however you like to do it. And, those are the little, there's only a few levers, but it's what you upload as training material. It's what you prompted in the little instructions. You can forget about the actions. Those are interesting, but technical and challenging, and you don't really need them yet. You can turn on or off the internet searching ability, which,
right. So you got different toggles for what you can, kind of narrow it down.
So I think that's a great use case, just a document, whatever you'd call that, consultant.
Yeah. It's like your own
or whatever.
Right.
That's, I think, depending on how valuable the document is to you, very valuable. And then there's, let's see. Hey, buddy, you need that? Sorry, my little guy.
It's okay. No worries.
And then, let's see. Some other ones that I like are if I have to format something in a particular way. For example, I have to write a monthly report to my board about our activities at our nonprofit the past month. And it follows a certain template. I've been writing the same template every month for 12 years. It's the information in it that changes. So what I was able to do was instead of what the documents I uploaded were, I took 3 examples of successful reports that I had written, and I made them into a single document that said example 1, example 2, example 3. And then I put that document into a ChatGPT, and I said, whenever I give you new information, format it the way that I like to format it and write it in the way I write it. So now I can pick up my phone and I can talk in this month's stuff to this GPT. This month we covered this many meetings, we did this much original content, we had these workshops, we got these new members, blah, blah, blah. And then it's written into the format that I needed in, which was a pain in the neck, and so this saves me some hours per month.
Yeah.
And so, that's a category of GPT as well. And there's a number of others that I've uncovered over the year that, a lot fit into. Like the Q&As for Smarty Pants are all the same. It's just a question answer type of thing.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a few of my own in that I think are really interesting, and maybe you've done similar things. And because I use it, like I said, I use it a lot in my own agency, in my business, for little things like you're talking about here. There's something we do a lot of is maintenance of websites and WordPress. So we on a schedule, we'll go to a website and there will be plugins. Every website has plugins. They're extensions or whatever. If you don't know anything about WordPress, but you have to keep these plugins, and there might be dozens of them. You got to keep them up to date. Well, I need to also report that when the updates are done. I have to tell somebody we did them, and then we like to give them a breakdown of what version went to what version. Well, there's no easy way to pull that out of the system, out of WordPress, and besides manually copying, the name of the plugin, the version, name of the plugin, the version. Well, what I figured out, and I use this in other ways too, is I can take a screenshot of that page. I can crawl that whole page, screenshot it, and now I have a ChatGPT. I drop it in, and it actually will create the email and the placeholders for me. It even knows the date. It puts the date in where it's supposed to be, like, this is the date we did the update, name of the site. That's all it really needs. And then it pulls all that data from images. So that is one of the big things that I've learned, that there's a lot of things like that. Even on an accounting side, there's things I take screenshots of, and it can kind of put it into a table for me. That's huge. So that's one way I use it. And the other thing I would just say is you can also have it step through things. Like you said, with the questions, the podcast, I have it. I have a way we process the transcript using a Decipher, I think is the name of the service. We use a lot of services. And I drop it in there. It kind of creates show notes, creates some ideas of titles and stuff. But I have actually a GPT where I then take that in. Even though AI just did all that, I want to narrow it down a little bit and get more specific and have a conversation around it. So I'll drop it into my GPT. It processes it because I can export that transcript with all the show notes and all that. I said, here it is. I just got a prompt for it. Here it is. And then it starts with the title. And then once we might go back and forth a little bit to get that. And I said, well, I want to make sure we're saying builders, or we're doing this. And finally we settle on that one, and it'll be like, okay, when you're ready, let's make the description. Is this looking good? And I'm like, yep, good. And then it does the description or the table of contents. So it'll actually understand what step we're in. And then once we're past that, it goes. So those are a couple things that I think are really useful for me anyway.
I think that's a really good best practice of kind of always helping it maintain the information, where you're like doing the planning stages. Okay, now let's make an outline. Now let's go one by one through the things in the outline. Now let's recap, there's some good practice there of helping it carry through, because otherwise it can kind of.
Because one thing informs the next. Like we got to get that title solid. Now that's going to inform how we construct the description and the table, or we might do the table of contents first and then do the description.
Yeah.
But it's very, very cool.
What I'll often do is make separate GPTs.
Oh, for that. Yeah.
Like even divide the steps even smaller and have separate GPTs, like, so it can't possibly do anything other than the one thing.
Right. Yeah. The more narrow, the better. Yeah. I figured that out. I've tried to make more generalist ones where I want one to help me with 5 different types of emails or something.
Yeah.
And then it gets confused. It starts making stuff up, putting things together in a weird way.
It's an important lesson, really. It was one of them.
Yeah.
It was probably the most important lesson I learned about all the GPT stuff is the simpler, the better.
Yeah.
In terms of like what you're asking it to do. Not that it can't do complex things, but just don't ask it to do more than one thing. Yeah.
I always think of it this way. We, for many years, AI isn't just a new thing. It's been around for a long time, but it was always about this talk about narrow AI. It can play this particular game or this particular game. It's not a generalist, can't do. I feel like now we have the generalist. Now we're going to revert back to taking that generalist and turn it back into a narrow to do specific things. But we have a lot of flexibility that way. We can have it do almost anything.
Yeah.
But
narrow and personalized, which is really powerful. Like, you needed to do that one little thing that you've figured out that moves the needle on your business and is your competitive edge or something. If you can bottle that up and make it go faster, that's
100%. Yeah. Like I said, it all adds up. It all adds up. Yeah. So I feel like this conversation's got me, I probably have 24, right? I don't have a lot, right? 24 GPTs, but now I'm like, I should have hundreds. I got a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Thousands. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to find what you gave the website and stuff already, if you want to repeat that and like, how do they find if they want to test your GPTs or they want to get access or they, or if they want to reach out to you and get some help with their particular thing, maybe collab on something.
Sure. Yeah. Anyone's welcome to reach out. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Funny spelling of my name, Erich Archer, but you'll find me there. And then, all my AI stuff is on my portfolio site, CGA Creative. That's all my kids' initials.
Nice.
I'm putting all my stuff there, just kind of, building on 24 and keeping after it. And there's a link to Smarty Pants there. If people want to try the GPTs, like I said, it's free. I would love, feedback if you try it and it works or doesn't work. Let me know.
Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah. I got one more thing in my head, if you don't mind. You got 2 more minutes?
Yeah.
Like if somebody let's say somebody wants to, so you can make these public, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can either keep them private.
Yep.
Especially if you have like business information that you want to get out into the wild.
Right.
But you can also make them public and then you're basically publishing them on the OpenAI platform.
Right. What I do is there's a third option, which is just people with the link.
Oh, with the link. Right.
Right. So they're not public within the GPT store, but you can come get the link from me and then.
Oh, nice. Okay. I was curious how that. Yeah. That's the last thing I have. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, Eric. It's been really fascinating. And, I'm excited to check out what you're doing myself because obviously I use it and I think it's you're doing good things. People need to do more of this because I think it can have a huge impact, especially on small business.
Well, thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And Unified Plugins offers tools to take your WordPress projects to the next level, helping you build beautiful websites, enhance functionality, and drive more conversions. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with somebody who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building with intention and creativity.